My child, I see you. I see the heavy, invisible weight you have been carrying for so long, and I know exactly how much it hurts to bear it. I know about the deep, lingering physical exhaustion that settles heavily into your bones before the sun even rises. You wake up already feeling defeated by the demands of the day, your mind instantly racing toward the problems you could not solve the night before. You have been trying to be so strong for everyone around you, trying to hold all the fragile pieces of your life together with your own two trembling hands. But I know how incredibly tired your soul truly is. You do not have to hide your weariness from me, and you do not have to pretend that everything is perfectly fine. I am not asking you to put on a brave face today. Come to me exactly as you are with all your exhaustion, all your unspoken worries, and all the financial anxiety that has been stealing your joy. I know about those long, agonizingly quiet nights you have spent sitting alone at the kitchen table, staring blankly at the stack of unpaid bills, illuminated by a single dim light. I have watched you run the numbers over and over again in your head, desperately trying to make impossible math work, feeling your chest violently tighten with every new calculation. I know the exact suffocating feeling of panic that grips your heart when you think about the future, wondering how you're going to make it through another week, let alone another long month. You are carrying a crushing burden of financial hardship that was never meant for your fragile human shoulders to bear alone. I see the quiet sacrifices you constantly make, the basic things you go without, just to keep the lights on, and the silent tears you shed when you think no one else is watching. I want to purposefully validate that deep, lingering pain right now. Your struggle is deeply real. Your terrifying fears are valid, and your absolute exhaustion is completely understood by the Creator of the universe. I am not rushing to hand you an immediate solution just to quiet your crying. I am sitting right here with you, in the middle of the pain, offering you my comforting presence long before I offer you the final answer. In those lonely hours of the night, when the rest of the world is comfortably asleep, I hear the dark thoughts that race through your mind. I know about the quiet fear whispering in the back of your battered heart, the terrible creeping thought that perhaps you have been entirely forgotten in this seemingly endless waiting season. You look around and see others effortlessly stepping into their blessings, moving forward in their lives, while you feel trapped in a barren valley of uncertainty. You have prayed until your voice is hoarse. You have waited faithfully, and you have tried so hard to remain positive. Yet the massive breakthrough you desperately need still seems impossibly far out of reach. It is so terribly easy, in the heavy silence of the waiting, to wonder if I have permanently turned my back on you. It is easy to wonder if your desperate prayers are simply bouncing off the ceiling, lost forever in the vast emptiness of the room. But I need you to listen to my voice right now, letting it ring much louder than your loudest fears, and clearer than your darkest doubts. I have not forgotten you. I have never taken my loving eyes off of you for a single second. I see every teardrop that falls upon your pillow, and I hear every broken prayer you have whispered into the dark. I am the God of omnipresent love, intimately aware of every intricate detail of your fragile life. When you weep softly in the shadows, I am right there beside you. When your voice trembles in a desperate prayer for help, I'm leaning in closely to listen. Your pain is tenderly held in my powerful hands. I know you are looking intently at your current earthly circumstances and trying to measure my unfailing love for you by the negative balance in your bank account. I know you are looking at the repeatedly closed doors, the terrifying lack of immediate provision, and the sheer height of the mountain standing directly in front of you, and you are mistakenly believing that this current financial struggle is a clear sign of my absence. You think that because the financial rescue has not suddenly arrived yet, I must be profoundly disappointed with you, or perhaps you secretly believe you have done something terrible to entirely disqualify yourself from my boundless grace. But let me gently, firmly correct that destructive lie right now. Your temporary earthly lack does not equal a permanent heavenly rejection. A difficult, deeply stretching season is absolutely not an indication that I have abandoned you to fend for yourself. Throughout all of human history, my most beloved children have walked through terrifying valleys of deep shadow and seasons of profound scarcity. Their intense daily struggles were never proof of my absence, but rather the very canvas upon which I was carefully preparing to vividly paint my greatest miracles. Do not let the temporary emptiness of your wallet convince you that my eternal promises are empty or broken. I am working powerfully and decisively in your life right now. Even in the silent spaces where your physical eyes cannot see and your weary mind cannot fully comprehend. You are deeply, unconditionally loved, and your current desperate situation is only a single chapter in a much greater story of redemption, divine provision, and overwhelming grace. Right now, your exhausted heart is racing with a frantic, desperate urgency. You are seeking a sudden breakthrough, a massive immediate shift in the harsh wind, a complete and total rescue from the suffocating financial pressures surrounding you on every side. You are entirely worn out from trying to figure everything out on your own, endlessly analyzing your incredibly limited options, and trying to forcefully pry open a heavy door that is simply not ready to be unlocked. But I am warmly inviting you into a completely different spiritual posture today. Before the external situation miraculously changes, before the incredible financial provision arrives, and before the heavy dark clouds finally break to reveal the warming sun, the very first step you must take is simply resting securely in my arms. Before I change your difficult circumstances, I intimately want to comfort and heal your bruised soul. Stop trying to outrun your crippling anxiety with endless worry. Stop trying to hustle your way out of this dark valley using only your own severely depleted human strength. Just breathe. Let your weary, battered heart sink fully into the absolute certainty of my unending love for you. I know you want the immediate, tangible solution more than anything else right now, but I deeply want to give you something far more durable and profound first. I want to give you genuine rest. Real, deep spiritual rest that completely transcends your frightening physical reality and firmly anchors your panicked mind in eternal truth. You have been violently fighting a battle you were never designed or equipped to win on your own. It is time to stop swinging your tired fists at the wind. It is time to let me hold you safely. It is time to let me beautifully carry the terrifying weight of tomorrow while you simply focus on trusting my absolute goodness today. Hear this foundational truth, my beloved child, and let it take deep, permanent root in the very bottom of your spirit. My peace comes before my miracle. This is the core, unchangeable principle of how I lovingly operate in the lives of those I cherish. I do not want to hand you a massive, life-altering blessing, while your fragile heart is still actively suffocating under the heavy weight of panic and fear. If I give you the breakthrough before you have truly found your complete peace and identity in me, you will only quickly transfer your intense anxiety onto the blessing itself, constantly terrified of losing it the moment you finally receive it. I want to build a rock-solid foundation of unshakable peace within you. First, a profound peace that does not wildly rise and fall with the turbulent economy, a peace that is not instantly destroyed by the arrival of an unexpected bill, and a peace that completely defies all rational human logic. My peace comes before my miracle, because I want you to know with absolute certainty that I am your ultimate unfailing source of joy, not the temporary earthly gifts I faithfully provide. I want you to feel so deeply understood, so profoundly seen, and so unconditionally loved in the very midst of your darkest uncertainty, that the eventual miracle simply becomes the beautiful overflow of a heart, already completely at rest. You are incredibly safe with me. The financial storm is still raging loudly outside your window, but here in my presence, you can quickly find absolute, perfect stillness. Let go of the frantic, exhausting need to desperately control the final outcome. Let the tight grip on your overwhelming anxieties slowly begin to loosen. You are perfectly, eternally safe. As you begin to finally release the heavy burden you were never meant to independently carry, I want to gently reveal to you how the enemy has been secretly trying to deceive you in this quiet place, and how the agonizing silence you have been misinterpreting is actually just the illusion of being forgotten. The illusion of being forgotten is one of the most powerful and destructive lies you will ever face, my child. In the deafening silence of your current struggle, when the answers you so desperately seek seem entirely withheld, it is incredibly easy for your tired mind to accept a false narrative. You sit alone, staring at the walls, and the enemy whispers that I have finally grown tired of your repeated requests. He tries to convince you that your past mistakes, your moments of weakness, or the times you strayed from my path have somehow permanently disqualified you from receiving my abundant blessings. I see how those dark thoughts wrap around your heart, like heavy chains, dragging you down into a deep, suffocating spiritual isolation. You feel as though you are standing completely alone in a crowded room, shouting for a rescue that no one else can hear. You watch other people smiling, seemingly living carefree lives, celebrating their own breakthroughs, and you quietly wonder why your name was crossed off the list. But I am telling you now, with all the gentle authority of heaven, that this isolation is an absolute deception. You are not abandoned. You have never been abandoned, not even for a fraction of a second. My love for you is not a fragile temporary emotion that fluctuates based on your daily performance or your past failures. My grace is not a worldly reward you have to earn through relentless perfection. It is a free, eternal gift wrapped in my unfailing commitment to your soul. When you believe that I have turned away from you, you are looking through a distorted lens, heavily clouded by your own fear and fatigue. I am closer to you right now in this painful valley than I have ever been. I watch as you repeatedly open your banking app or carefully review your dwindling finances, feeling that familiar, sickening drop in your stomach. You are mistakenly measuring my love for you by the current state of your financial situation. You look at the visible emptiness of your accounts, the mounting stack of terrifying obligations, and the sheer lack of physical resources, and you falsely conclude that I am actively withholding my affection from you. This mindset of scarcity must be completely broken today, right here in this quiet, sacred moment between us. Earthly wealth and temporary financial stability are absolutely not the true indicators of my presence or my favor. If you continually measure my devotion to you by the amount of money in your possession, you will always be violently tossed back and forth by the unpredictable waves of the world's economy. I want to entirely shift your perspective from your temporary earthly lack to my eternal unchanging sufficiency. The world loudly tells you that you are only as valuable as what you can produce, earn, or purchase. It tells you that your dignity is tied to your ability to afford a certain lifestyle. But I am telling you that your priceless worth was permanently settled the moment I breathed life into your lungs. You are my beloved child, and your current poverty of circumstances does not equal a poverty of spirit, nor does it signify a lack of heavenly provision. My love cannot be calculated on a spreadsheet, and my faithfulness to you cannot be determined by a credit score. I need you to understand what true enduring faith looks like in the exact middle of this agonizing uncertainty. Faith is not simply believing in me when the sun is shining brightly, the bills are paid early, and the path ahead is clearly illuminated. True, unshakable faith is deeply trusting me when the path forward is entirely obscured by thick, blinding fog, and your pockets are completely empty. It is standing in the middle of a barren, dry valley, looking at the cracked earth of your current circumstances, and choosing to believe that I am still the God of the abundant harvest. You are hyper-focused on the visible emptiness surrounding you, understandably panicked by what your physical eyes can see. But I want to gently pull back the curtain and show you the invisible constant and incredibly detailed work I am doing on your behalf entirely behind the scenes. Just because you cannot see the immediate, tangible results of your desperate prayers does not mean those prayers have gone unanswered or ignored. Right now, in ways you cannot possibly comprehend, and in places you cannot reach. I am moving massive obstacles out of your way. I am shifting circumstances, aligning timing, and carefully preparing the ground for what is about to happen next. Think of a seed planted deep beneath the soil. To the outside observer, the ground looks entirely barren, dark, and lifeless. But beneath the surface in the total darkness, a profound and necessary transformation is taking place. The silence you hear right now is not the silence of my absence. It is the quiet, focused silence of a master craftsman, deeply engaged in his most important work. I am weaving together a beautiful tapestry of grace, and your current struggle is merely the dark thread that will eventually make the bright, joyful colors of your impending blessing shine even more brilliantly. I know you have secretly wondered if this prolonged season of waiting is a harsh, vindictive punishment. You have meticulously searched your memory, lying awake in bed and trying to figure out what you did wrong to deserve this extended period of financial and emotional drought. You think I am holding you back, teaching you a painful disciplinary lesson by stubbornly withholding the relief you so desperately need. My precious child, you must entirely release this damaging, heartbreaking thought. This waiting season is absolutely not a punishment. It is a divine, incredibly intentional time of careful preparation. I am deliberately preparing your heart, your mind, and your spirit for the incredible gift that is coming your way. If I were to hand you this massive life-altering blessing right now, while your spirit is still deeply fractured by anxiety and your mind is still held tightly captive by the fear of scarcity, the blessing would instantly overwhelm you. You would quickly turn the gift into an idol, desperately clinging to it for your security, and constantly terrified of losing it, rather than clinging to me as your true provider. A premature blessing can easily become a burden if your character has not been forged to carry it. I am using this difficult stretching time to drastically expand your spiritual capacity. I am deepening and strengthening your roots so that when the heavy, beautiful fruit of this incoming blessing finally arrives, your branches will not break under its profound weight. Every single day you spend trusting me in the dark is building a resilience within you that no amount of money could ever buy. This is exactly why I am asking you to stop desperately searching for a physical rescue before you have fully established your spiritual peace. I want to shift your entire focus away from the empty, terrifying spaces in your life and gently redirect it toward the absolute fullness of my presence. When you are constantly scanning the horizon for a sudden financial miracle, holding your breath until the situation changes, you entirely miss the quiet, sustaining grace I am pouring over you right now in this very moment. You are surviving this dark valley today, not because of your own sheer willpower, but because my invisible hands are gently holding you up every single time you feel like collapsing in despair. I am your true provider, and I am actively providing for your soul long before I provide for your wallet. I am asking you to fiercely trust me when the path is entirely unclear, when the math does not make any logical sense, and when the terrifying night feels completely endless. I am asking you to believe that I am fiercely protective of you, that I deeply cherish you, and that I have a meticulously crafted plan for your immediate future that is far better than the one you have been desperately trying to build on your own. You are standing on the very edge of a profound, beautiful transformation, but you cannot cross over into that new, expansive season while you are still desperately clinging to your own limited understanding. The beautiful impending blessing requires entirely empty, open hands to receive it, to permanently break free from this painful illusion of being forgotten, and to finally step into the deep, abiding comfort I have prepared for you. You must be completely willing to let go of your exhausting need to control the final outcome. You must gently allow me to take the heavy frayed reins from your tired hands, gently pushing you towards seeking that deep, internal spiritual peace and fully preparing your heart for what must come next, to fully prepare your heart for what must come next. I am giving you a gentle but vital command. Today, you must actively surrender the weight of this heavy burden. I watch you every single day as you try so desperately to carry it all by yourself, and I see exactly how deeply it is crushing your spirit. You wake up early, long before the sun rises, and you stay up late into the silent hours of the night, constantly trying to force open heavy doors that are currently purposefully shut. I see you sitting at the edge of your bed, staring blankly at the floor, your shoulders heavily slumped under the invisible pressure of providing for your family. I see you rearranging the same broken pieces over and over again on the table, desperately hoping that they will somehow fit together differently this time, praying for a sudden mathematical miracle to solve your financial dread. You are exhausted. My child, completely and entirely exhausted physically, mentally, and spiritually. You are running entirely on fumes, relying on a deeply depleted reserve of human strength that was inherently designed by me to have absolute limits. I did not build your fragile, beautiful frame to carry the immense, crushing weight of tomorrow's unknown provisions. When you try to bear the massive responsibility of fixing everything on your own, you are unknowingly trying to take my place, and that is a terrifying burden that will always eventually break you. Human strength was never meant to sustain the brutal storms of life without divine intervention. Right now, I see your hands tightly clenched into rigid fists, gripping so fiercely to your worries, your carefully laid out contingency plans, and your deep-seated fears of catastrophic failure. You are holding on to your intense anxiety as if it were a protective shield, mistakenly believing that if you stop worrying for even a single second, everything you love will instantly fall apart. You think that constantly obsessing over the lack of money is somehow a form of responsible control, but it is actually a prison that is suffocating your faith. I want you to look closely at those tightly clenched hands today. A hand that is stubbornly closed, locked tightly around its own fear and relentless desire for control, cannot possibly receive a new gift. If I were to drop the incredible life-altering blessing I have prepared for you into your hands right now, it would simply bounce off your closed fists and fall uselessly to the ground. You must deliberately open your hands. You must purposefully pry your tired fingers open one by one and let the anxiety, the desperate striving, and the terrible fear of lack fall entirely away. Yielding to my infinite wisdom requires a vulnerability that absolutely terrifies your human mind, but it is the non-negotiable prerequisite for the delivery of my overwhelming grace. You cannot possibly receive the unexpected blessing I am sending if you are desperately holding on to the expected disaster. You have been relying so heavily on your own limited understanding, meticulously calculating your rapidly diminishing options and trying to creatively outsmart your own poverty. You have mapped out every possible worst-case scenario to protect yourself from sudden surprise, trying to anticipate every move the enemy might make against your finances. But I am asking you to lean entirely on my eternal understanding now. My ways are infinitely higher than your ways, and my divine solutions will always completely defy your rational human logic. When you fiercely try to control every single variable of your financial crisis, you are essentially telling me that you do not fully trust me to write the final victorious ending of this difficult chapter. I am asking you to gently step away from the drawing board. Stop aggressively trying to figure out exactly how the wealthy person I am sending will find you, or exactly how the provision will miraculously appear in your empty bank account. The exact details of your rescue are absolutely not your responsibility to manage. They are mine alone to execute. Your only responsibility right now is to yield entirely to my wisdom, fully trusting that I have a perfect, flawless strategy already in constant motion. Surrendering your timeline means stepping completely out of my way so that I can perform the work I promised to do. The world around you has relentlessly taught you that surrender is a shameful sign of weakness, a humiliating admission of total defeat when the battle becomes entirely too hard. The world loudly tells you to keep hustling, to grind even harder through the pain, to never show a single crack in your emotional armor, and to aggressively pull yourself up by your own exhausted strength, but in my eternal kingdom. Surrender is the most courageous, powerful, and beautiful act of faith you can possibly take. True spiritual surrender does not mean you are giving up on your life, abandoning your daily responsibilities, or walking away in defeated, bitter despair. It simply means you are bravely stepping back so that I can finally step in and take absolute over. It is you finally acknowledging with quiet humility that you have reached the absolute undeniable end of your own limited resources, and joyfully inviting the Creator of the universe to handle the heavy lifting. When you actively surrender your financial burdens to me, you are not throwing your hands up in a tragic loss. You are lifting them up in pure, unadulterated worship. You are boldly telling me that you trust my perfect, loving character far more than you trust your own desperately constructed backup plans. You are actively choosing to let me be God. I know exactly why you have been so desperately afraid to let go. You have a deep-seated, agonizing fear of complete failure. You are terrified of letting down the people who heavily rely on you, terrified of losing what little stability you have left, and terrified of the sheer embarrassment that comes from publicly falling short. You secretly believe that if you stop frantically treading water, you will instantly sink beneath the dark, cold waves of debt and ruin. You think that if you do not constantly obsess over every unpaid bill, every upcoming deadline, and every firmly closed door, I might somehow forget to handle them on your behalf. But my precious child, I absolutely do not need your constant frantic worry to successfully accomplish my divine will. Your severe, crippling anxiety is not adding a single ounce of actual provision to your life. It is only successfully stealing your daily joy, clouding your spiritual vision, and slowly destroying your physical health. I am the Lord who powerfully sustains the entire universe, and I have never once dropped a single-minute detail of your fragile life. When you intentionally choose to release control, you are handing your deepest, most terrifying fears directly over to the only one who actually has the power to permanently destroy them. Remember the unshakable foundational truth I established at the very beginning of our conversation. My peace comes before my miracle. You absolutely cannot skip this crucial transformative step of your spiritual journey. The incredible life-changing gift that a wealthy person is actively preparing to place into your life will only bring you true, lasting joy if your heart is already completely resting securely in my sovereignty. So stop striving right now. Stop trying to furiously dig your own shallow well in the middle of a dry, cracked desert, and start deeply trusting my perfect, flawless timing. The exact moment you truly surrender, the exact second you finally exhale and say, Lord, I cannot do this anymore. It is entirely in your capable hands. You will feel a profound, undeniable lightening of your entire spiritual load. The overwhelming, crushing pressure will instantly begin to evaporate from your tired shoulders, beautifully replaced by a quiet, steady assurance that I am firmly in control of your future. Lay your deepest, darkest worries completely at my feet today. Leave them there. Do not secretly pick them back up the moment you walk away to face the world again. As you gently empty your hands of this heavy, exhausting burden, you are finally making the necessary room for my impending grace, completely clearing the internal space required to begin actively cultivating unshakable peace in the lowest depths of this valley. Now that your hands are finally open, my child, I want to teach you exactly how to breathe again. We are going to intentionally cultivate a deep, abiding peace right here in the very middle of your current storm. The violent winds of financial uncertainty are still howling loudly outside your living room window, and the towering waves of worldly pressure have not yet receded from your front door. But you no longer have to let that external turbulence dictate the internal condition of your soul. For far too long, you have allowed your precious joy to be completely chained to your fluctuating financial status. When there was a little extra money securely in your account, you felt a fleeting, fragile sense of happiness. But the exact moment an unexpected medical bill arrived, or a vehicle suddenly broke down, Your peace instantly evaporated into thin air, leaving you hollow and terrified. I want to permanently break that exhausting, volatile cycle today. True, enduring joy is not found in the delicate, unpredictable balance of an earthly ledger. It is found solely in the unshakable certainty of my presence. I am teaching you how to build a heavy fortress of quiet calm within your own heart, a beautiful fortified sanctuary that no collection notice, no empty cupboard, and no terrifying headline can ever penetrate. You are learning the vital spiritual discipline of separating your divine eternal identity from your temporary economic reality. You are discovering that you can be completely whole, entirely loved, and deeply satisfied, even while walking bravely through the lowest, darkest shadows of this valley. I must continually reiterate this vital truth because it is the absolute unshakable foundation of what I am actively preparing to do in your life. My peace comes before my miracle. This is not merely a gentle suggestion designed to make you feel better. It is a non-negotiable spiritual prerequisite for the massive life-altering blessing that is already moving towards you. You see, the human heart is incredibly fragile, highly susceptible to fear, and easily distracted by shiny temporary things. If I were to suddenly pour out an overwhelming abundance of financial relief while you are still deeply entrenched in a desperate mindset of panic, you would immediately turn that beautiful gift into a heavy idol. You would begin to intimately trust the physical provision itself instead of trusting the eternal Creator who lovingly provided it. You would wake up every single morning terrified of losing what you just received, guarding your new wealth with the exact same exhausting anxiety that you currently use to guard your lack. I love you entirely too much to let a financial blessing become your new, cruel master. By requiring you to find your complete peace in me before the external circumstances change, I am actively protecting your soul from future ruin. I am ensuring that when the incredible gift finally arrives, it will serve as a joyful testament to my unwavering faithfulness, rather than becoming a cheap substitute for my daily presence. When your heart is deeply and securely anchored in my eternal love, the coming breakthrough will simply be a beautiful addition to a life already overflowing with spiritual contentment. Not a frantic rescue raft you desperately cling to for survival. I know intimately how agonizingly long and intensely silent this waiting period has felt for you, my child. There are quiet, lonely days when the sheer duration of this intense struggle makes you question every single promise I have ever spoken over your life. But I am asking you to rest the full weight of your soul in those promises today. Not because you can see the immediate tangible evidence of their fulfillment, but because you know the flawless, unchanging character of the one who made them. I am Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. But I deeply need you to recognize that I am also the Lord who sustains. Divine provision is not always a sudden dramatic windfall of wealth, dropping unexpectedly from the sky. Very often, provision is the quiet, steady daily strength I give you, simply to endure another long, difficult afternoon. It is the unexpected meal a kind neighbor brings to your door, the supernatural grace to sleep soundly through a heavily burdened night, and the gentle, unexplainable whisper of courage that greets you when you open your tired eyes in the morning. I am physically and spiritually sustaining you right now, meticulously holding together the fragile pieces of your life that you incorrectly assume are entirely falling apart. When you finally learn to lean the absolute full weight of your exhaustion against the sturdy, unmoving oak of my eternal promises, the agonizing weight suddenly transforms. It shifts from a period of terrifying, empty starvation into a season of quiet, profound, and necessary spiritual nourishment. You stop constantly checking your watch, demanding that I adhere strictly to your frantic human timeline, and you simply allow yourself to be held by the God who lovingly holds time itself in the palm of his hand, to truly and permanently anchor yourself in this new, unshakable peace. I am laying a beautiful yet difficult challenge directly before you. I want you to worship me directly in the middle of this painful valley. I want you to actively look around at the seemingly sparse, barren landscape of your current life and deliberately find profound gratitude for the small, everyday mercies that you have been entirely overlooking. You have been so intensely fixated on scanning the distant horizon for the massive, earth-shattering breakthrough that you have entirely missed the countless quiet miracles unfolding gently right at your feet. True worship is not just a joyful song you sing when the battle is already won and the bank account is full. It is the most powerful offensive weapon you can possibly wield while the fight is still violently raging around you. When you bravely choose to whisper a genuine tearful prayer of thanks for the breath in your lungs, the roof over your head, or the warm morning sunlight streaming through your kitchen window, you actively rebel against the enemy's crushing narrative of defeat. Gratitude instantly and completely rewires your exhausted mind. It violently lifts your heavy gaze from the dirt of your temporary poverty and fixes it securely on the vast, beautiful expanse of my heavenly grace. Do not wait for the wealthy benefactor to arrive before you decide to offer me your highest praise. Offer it right now with entirely empty pockets and a deeply tired spirit, and carefully watch how that simple, authentic act of worship dramatically transforms the atmosphere of your home. You will begin to realize that you are completely surrounded by my goodness, even in the quiet spaces where your wallet is totally bare. This intentional daily practice of profound gratitude is carefully transitioning your entire mindset from a terrifying perspective of worldly scarcity to a beautiful, expansive realization of spiritual abundance. The loud, chaotic world insists that abundance is strictly measured by the rapid accumulation of physical possessions, the size of a home, and the security of a large savings account. But in my eternal kingdom, true abundance is measured by the depth of your unshakable peace, the width of your resilient joy, and the absolute unwavering certainty that you are deeply, unconditionally loved by your Creator. As you sit quietly here with me in this valley, slowly replacing your frantic, exhausting panic with a quiet, steady trust, a magnificent permanent shift is quietly taking place deep inside your spirit. You are no longer acting like a desperate orphan, nervously begging for tiny scraps of bread. You are beginning to walk, think, and breathe exactly like a cherished child of the King, entirely confident that your Heavenly Father has boundless resources and a flawless, loving plan for your life. This deep internal transformation is the exact specific preparation required for the massive physical blessing that is currently on its way to you. Because you have learned to be profoundly joyful and completely at peace with very little, you will soon be entirely trusted to manage very much. Your fragile heart is now becoming safely anchored, thoroughly insulated against the dangerous traps of pride, and completely aligned with my divine will. And as this profound, newly cultivated peace settles permanently into the deepest corners of your soul, I want to pull back the heavy curtain just a fraction more so you can finally begin to comprehend the incredible unseen hands that are already diligently at work on your behalf. As that deep, abiding peace finally begins to wash over your weary spirit, I want you to lift your eyes from the immediate struggles surrounding your feet and look toward the distant horizon. You have spent so much time staring at closed doors, quietly believing that absolutely nothing is happening because your physical eyes cannot detect any immediate change, but human vision is incredibly limited. My child, you can only see the tiny fraction of the world that stands directly in front of you, but I stand above all of time and space, looking at the breathtaking entirety of your life's beautiful masterpiece. While you have been learning to bravely sit still in the quiet valley, finding your joy entirely in my presence, I have not been sitting still. I am actively, relentlessly, and powerfully moving on your behalf. Right now, in this very second, I am orchestrating a magnificent series of events that you could never possibly engineer on your own. I am aligning conversations you have not heard, shifting circumstances you cannot see, and mobilizing heavenly resources to perfectly intersect with your earthly needs. I am the grand conductor of a beautiful symphony, and every single note is currently being perfectly tuned to bring about the miraculous breakthrough you have been waiting for. I want this powerful realization to spark a profound, warm sense of joyous anticipation deep inside your chest today. You are not waiting in a forgotten, stagnant wasteland. You are standing in the middle of an active, bustling divine construction zone, and the unseen hands of your Creator are diligently at work, building your magnificent rescue. Let me whisper a beautiful secret into your spirit today, something to completely reignite your hope and drastically expand your limited expectations. I intimately hold the hearts of all people in the palm of my hand, and I can gently direct them wherever I choose, like a steady stream of water. This includes strangers you have never even met, individuals who possess abundant, overflowing resources and are actively looking for a divine purpose for their wealth. Right now, there is a wealthy person whose life is completely separate from yours, walking through their own daily routine, entirely unaware that I am currently preparing them to be the direct answer to your most desperate midnight prayers. I am quietly softening their heart, gently nudging their spirit, and meticulously aligning their path to cross with yours at the exact perfect moment. They have the financial abundance you so desperately need, and I am giving them the undeniable desire to generously release it. You have been so terrified that you would have to figure out a way to magically generate this provision all by yourself, exhausting your mind, trying to invent a new stream of income out of thin air. But I am telling you that I am perfectly capable of using someone else's overwhelming surplus to completely eradicate your terrifying deficit. I do not need you to painfully hustle your way into this blessing. I simply need you to remain spiritually open and eagerly watchful, deeply knowing that I can easily use a total stranger to deliver an incredible gift of grace directly to your front door. The enemy has tried so hard to convince you that your future is entirely dictated by the harsh rules of human economic systems. He constantly points to your low credit score, the rising cost of living, the unforgiving banking regulations, and the terrifying state of the global economy, whispering that you are hopelessly trapped by these physical limitations. But those earthly systems absolutely do not govern my heavenly kingdom. They do not dictate my endless generosity, and they certainly cannot restrict my ability to radically bless my children. I am the Lord who created the heavens and the earth. I own the cattle on 1,000 hills, and all the hidden wealth of the world belongs entirely to me. When I decide it is time to pour out a blessing upon your life, no banking institution, no economic downturn, and no human barrier can possibly stand in my way or delay my hand. The world's economy is incredibly fragile and constantly shifting, driven entirely by human fear and temporary worldly greed. It crashes, it falters, and it leaves the vulnerable feeling entirely forgotten. But my divine economy operates strictly on the eternal, unshakable currency of grace, love, and perfect provision. You must stop looking to the systems of this fallen world for your ultimate salvation, and instead, look directly to the limitless resources of your Heavenly Father. I am never intimidated by the massive size of your debt, and I am never restricted by the frightening emptiness of your bank account. My supply is absolutely infinite, and I am preparing to demonstrate that limitless power in a way that will leave you absolutely breathless with gratitude. I know the agonizing weight has made you wonder if I ever truly heard your cries for help in the first place. You have asked me countless times why the answer is taking so incredibly long to arrive, secretly fearing that your prayers were somehow not strong enough or eloquent enough to reach my throne. But I want to permanently reassure you right now, the very first time you fell to your knees and whispered that desperate, tearful plea for financial relief, your prayer instantly activated a massive heavenly response. I heard you immediately. My beloved child, I captured every single tear in a bottle, and I felt the exact depth of the exhaustion that caused your voice to break. The exact provision you need was dispatched the very second you asked for it. But just because the delivery is currently in transit does not mean it is delayed by accident. Sometimes the most beautiful life-altering blessings simply take time to travel through the complex, winding roads of human free will and earthly circumstances. I have been carefully preparing the wealthy benefactor's heart, precisely arranging the necessary events, and most importantly, I have been tenderly preparing your own soul to carry the profound weight of this incoming gift. The weight is not a denial. The weight is the incredibly necessary travel time required for my perfect grace to arrive beautifully intact and flawlessly timed. Your faithful, trembling prayers have already set the miracle in motion, and it is moving steadily towards you right now, cutting through the darkness with absolute divine precision. You do not have to shout louder to get my attention. You just have to trust that the package has already been sent, lovingly wrapped in my unfailing promises. This profound realization is designed to radically shift your daily posture from one of passive, defeated waiting into a vibrant state of active, watchful faith. I do not want you sitting in the dark valley anymore, hopelessly waiting for the end to come with a heavy, downcast spirit. I want you standing confidently on your tiptoes, eagerly looking down the road with joyous anticipation, absolutely knowing that your incredible gift is en route. Trusting. My perfect timing means deeply accepting that the preparation of this specific blessing is taking exactly as long as it needs to take, not a single second more and not a single second less. If I had rushed the process to simply quiet your temporary panic, the blessing would have been incomplete, and you would have entirely missed the profound spiritual growth that this waiting season has lovingly produced within you. Now your faith is being wonderfully stretched. Your spiritual muscles are finally strong enough to bear the weight of sudden abundance, and the stage is perfectly set for my glory to be revealed. I am asking you to wake up tomorrow morning with a brand new, resilient hope burning brightly in your chest. Step out into the world not as a victim of your circumstances, but as a deeply loved child, expecting a beautiful surprise. When you hear a knock at the door, when your phone suddenly rings, or when you cross paths with a stranger, I want your heart to leap with the beautiful, exciting possibility that this might be the very moment I have chosen to unfold the miracle. Yet even as this hopeful anticipation begins to rise beautifully within you, I know there is still a heavy protective wall you have built around your fragile heart. A quiet hesitation born from past letdowns that is desperately trying to block you from fully believing that this unexpected grace is actually real. I see those thick, heavy defensive walls you have meticulously built around your spirit. My child, you have spent years carefully stacking these invisible stones of self-protection, layering them with a cynical mortar designed to keep any new disappointment from striking your fragile core. I watch as you instinctively brace yourself whenever a small glimmer of good news appears on the horizon. Instead of allowing a natural smile to form, your hands immediately clench, your breathing becomes shallow, and you whisper to yourself that it is probably too good to be true. You are entirely terrified of getting your hopes up, only to be violently let down by life's harsh realities once again. The emotional whiplash of believing that a rescue was finally here, only to watch it vanish like morning mist, has left you deeply bruised and profoundly exhausted. You have convinced yourself that expecting the absolute worst is the only safe way to survive, a misguided form of emotional armor that keeps you from feeling the crushing blow of another shattered dream. But this armor is incredibly heavy, and it is actively suffocating the very faith you desperately need right now. You are so afraid to believe that I am actually moving on your behalf, because the intense pain of long-deferred hope has made your heart incredibly sick. I want to gently dismantle this towering fortress of fear today. I want to lovingly heal that cynical protective layer of your heart that is fiercely resisting the beautiful truth of my impending grace. I know exactly where these deep, agonizing scars came from. I was sitting right there beside you during every single moment of profound disappointment. I remember the times you were boldly promised a promotion, a financial loan, or a helping hand from someone you deeply trusted, only to have them quietly pull away when you needed their support the most. I saw you sitting alone in your car, staring blankly at your phone, in the quiet darkness waiting for a call that never came, feeling the heavy, sickening weight of betrayal settling heavily into your chest. You have trusted earthly systems, well-meaning friends, and seemingly secure opportunities, and they have repeatedly crumbled beneath your tired feet, leaving you to desperately pick up the broken pieces all by yourself. Those painful experiences have quietly taught you to view every single promise with extreme suspicion. You have begun to project the unreliability of broken, flawed people onto the perfect, flawless character of your Creator. You think that because the world has consistently broken its word to you, I will eventually do the exact same thing. You secretly fear that this incredible gift I am preparing through a wealthy benefactor is just another cruel illusion, a temporary mirage in your desert of waiting that will disappear the second you finally reach out to touch it. It breaks my heart to see you living in such defensive terror, constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, completely unable to embrace the joy I am actively sending your way. You must draw a distinct, impenetrable line in your mind today between the fragile, temporary nature of human guarantees and the unfailing, eternal certainty of my divine promises. Human beings, even those with the absolute best and most sincere intentions, are inherently limited. They run out of resources. They drastically change their minds. They become entirely overwhelmed by their own daily struggles, and they forget the vows they made in the light when the terrifying darkness suddenly falls. But I am not limited by human weakness, and I absolutely do not possess a human heart that fluctuates with the changing tides of the economy or the passing of time. When I speak a promise over your life, it is anchored securely in the bedrock of eternity. My word does not return to me void. It fiercely and perfectly accomplishes exactly what I sent it to do. You must stop holding me accountable for the painful failures of the people who selfishly let you down. I am not the employer who unjustly laid you off. I am not the friend who walked away when your bank account completely emptied. I am your steadfast, fiercely loyal Heavenly Father, and my absolute faithfulness reaches entirely beyond the clouds. To fully receive the massive breakthrough that is rapidly approaching, you must intentionally choose to separate your painful earthly memories from your heavenly expectations. You must look closely at my flawless track record of grace, completely turning your eyes away from the world's dismal track record of grief. To properly prepare for this incoming blessing, we must completely clear away the heavy spiritual debris that has slowly accumulated in the deepest corners of your soul. Bitterness, creeping cynicism, and unresolved anger act as massive boulders blocking the rushing river of my grace. I know you feel entirely justified in your highly guarded skepticism. You feel that you have fully earned the right to be bitter because the intense pain you endured was deeply unfair. But harboring that bitterness is only poisoning your own spiritual well. I'm asking you to do something incredibly difficult today, something that requires profound spiritual maturity and immense, breathtaking courage. I am asking you to actively forgive the people, the institutions, and the specific circumstances that broke your heart and emptied your pockets. Biblical forgiveness does not mean that what they did was acceptable, and it certainly does not magically erase the severe financial hardship their reckless actions may have caused. True forgiveness is simply you choosing to gently open your tightly closed fists, entirely releasing your desperate, exhausting demand for worldly justice and quietly trusting me to perfectly balance the scales. When you bravely choose to forgive past letdowns and intentionally release your long-held bitterness, you are violently tearing down the cynical walls that have been keeping your miracle at bay. You are sweeping the dusty floor of your heart entirely clean, making expansive, beautiful room for the unprecedented kindness I am about to graciously pour out upon you. This upcoming miracle requires a very specific type of container to hold its immense weight. I cannot pour the overwhelming, life-altering gift of this wealthy benefactor's generosity into a vessel that is tightly sealed with bitter skepticism. I deeply need a vessel of genuine, open, and completely vulnerable faith. I know that remaining spiritually vulnerable after you have been deeply hurt feels completely terrifying. It feels exactly like you are willingly walking onto a chaotic battlefield without a protective shield, completely exposing your most fragile hopes to potential devastating destruction. But biblical perseverance is absolutely not about aggressively fighting the harsh world with a calloused, hardened heart. It is about keeping your heart entirely soft, wide open, and fully expectant toward heaven, even when the overwhelming earthly evidence loudly demands that you shut down. Perseverance is waking up every single morning, looking directly at the stack of unpaid bills and the terrifyingly empty pantry, and choosing to boldly whisper, "I still believe that my God is entirely good, and I still firmly believe that my rescue is completely secure." It is the profound, quiet courage to let yourself truly feel the warm, exciting flutter of hope in your chest. Once again, completely refusing to let the enemy extinguish that divine spark with his cold, paralyzing logic. You must boldly give yourself absolute permission to get your hopes up again. Let the joyful, warm anticipation rise up in your throat. Let the cynical, frightened voices of self-protection be permanently silenced by the roaring truth of my boundless love for you. As you bravely lower these heavy walls and allow yourself to truly believe in my goodness. Once again, you are actively fulfilling the most critical requirement of this entire journey. I continually remind you that my peace comes before my miracle, and this is exactly what that profound peace looks like in action. True spiritual maturity is not pretending that you have never been hurt. It is intentionally choosing to fiercely trust my eternal goodness, despite the deep, visible scars you carry. It is recognizing that the massive disappointments of your past do not dictate the glorious, miraculous trajectory of your immediate future. You are no longer a fearful, cynical captive to your previous letdowns. You are a deeply matured, spiritually resilient child of the King, actively preparing to step into a season of unimaginable abundance. When you fully embrace this vulnerable, beautiful trust, you completely remove the very last spiritual obstacle standing between you and the massive blessing I have prepared. By choosing to let go of your protective bitterness, you are finally ready to understand why I allowed this difficult delay in the first place, completely reframing this agonizing waiting period, not as an empty, wasted void, but as a crucial, highly intentional time of character building and profound spiritual growth. You have looked at the calendar so many times, watching the days, weeks, and months slowly bleed into one another, and you have quietly wept over what you believed was hopelessly stolen time. I know you have felt deep down that this agonizing waiting period has been nothing more than an empty, wasted void. You have watched others effortlessly pass you by, happily stepping into their joyful seasons of abundance, while you felt entirely stuck in a dry, barren wasteland, endlessly circling the exact same massive mountain of financial hardship and deep emotional fatigue. But I'm asking you to look at this seemingly endless season through my eternal eyes today. This painful delay is absolutely not a rejection, and it is certainly not a meaningless stretch of empty days designed to break your weary spirit. This entire season has been a crucial, highly intentional time of profound character building and deep spiritual growth. I do not waste a single tear you have shed in the quiet darkness, and I do not waste a single moment of your difficult waiting. I am purposefully taking the raw, intense pain of your current struggle and carefully transforming it into the unbreakable foundation of your future joy. You must realize that the incredible gift I am preparing to send you through this unexpected benefactor is not just a small, temporary relief. It is a substantial, entirely life-altering blessing. Because this incoming blessing is so incredibly heavy, your character must be significantly strengthened just to carry it properly, without being crushed under its overwhelming weight. Think of a towering oak tree standing firmly against a violent, raging storm. The beautiful tree does not survive the brutal winds because of its visible branches or its green leaves. It survives because it spent years hidden entirely in the dark, silent earth, fiercely driving its unseen roots deep into the solid rock below. If that massive tree had grown to its full magnificent height overnight, the very first strong wind of the season would have easily and completely torn it from the ground. Your soul operates in the exact same divine way. I am currently driving your spiritual roots incredibly deep into the bedrock of my unfailing eternal love. Premature blessings can sometimes become terrible, suffocating burdens that completely crush those who are not yet spiritually mature enough to manage them. If I had answered your desperate midnight prayers for sudden financial relief on the very first day you asked, you would have quickly received the money, but your fragile heart would have remained tightly bound by lingering fear, hidden pride, and crippling impatience. You would have immediately trusted the earthly wealth instead of trusting the Heavenly Father, who lovingly provided it. I love you entirely too much to let a sudden physical blessing completely destroy your hard-won spiritual peace. I am drastically expanding your internal capacity to handle extreme, unprecedented generosity. I am stretching your faith so that when the abundance finally arrives at your front door, you will be able to successfully steward it with profound humility, grace, and immense gratitude. You are being meticulously trained to hold incredible blessings with entirely open hands, recognizing them as divine gifts to be shared, rather than worldly safety nets to be desperately hoarded. There is a profound, beautiful biblical wisdom continually unfolding in your life. At this exact moment, patience produces endurance, and endurance produces unshakable character. You have been praying so fiercely for a miraculous sudden change in your difficult circumstances, but I have been answering your faithful prayer by miraculously and permanently changing you. Every single time you woke up to a terrifyingly empty bank account and still bravely chose to whisper a quiet prayer of profound gratitude, your spiritual endurance grew. Every time you felt the suffocating grip of anxiety trying to violently choke your hope, but you actively chose to worship me directly in the lowest valley. Anyway, your character was being carefully refined, like pure gold in the hottest fire. This is exactly how unshakable faith is built. It is never forged on the bright sunny mountaintops of easy success. It is forged entirely in the dark, quiet valleys of uncertainty, where you must learn to walk strictly by faith and absolutely not by sight. Every single day of waiting has been a day of careful, loving preparation by my own sovereign hand. I have been carefully walking beside you, closely, monitoring the heat of the furnace, always ensuring that you are never tested beyond what your spirit can safely bear. You have been mistakenly looking at this painful delay as a glaring sign of my absence, but it is actually the most profound proof of my intimate personal attention to your fragile soul. I am heavily invested in who you are becoming, far more than I am invested in simply changing what you are currently experiencing. This powerful realization brings us directly back to the most critical, non-negotiable truth of our entire journey together. My peace comes before my miracle. You must intentionally stop viewing this difficult waiting season as an agonizing locked prison that you need to desperately escape, and instead begin to fully embrace it as a sacred, highly purposeful classroom. The profound lessons you are learning right now in the quiet shadows, beautiful lessons of radical trust, deep surrender, and unwavering resilient hope, are the exact spiritual tools you will desperately need to successfully navigate the bright season of abundance that is rapidly approaching. Do not rush this divine process. If you constantly angrily fight against the perfect timing I have set, you will entirely miss the subtle, beautiful transformations taking place deep within your own heart. I want you to find profound meaning and unshakable divine purpose in your current delay. I want you to wake up tomorrow morning, take a deep breath, and consciously decide to stop fighting the wait. When the familiar, terrifying rush of panic tries to convince you that time is rapidly running out, gently remind your anxious heart that the Creator of time is actively, flawlessly managing your schedule. When the enemy cruelly whispers that you have been entirely forgotten in the dust, boldly declare that you are being carefully and lovingly molded by the Master Potter. Every single delay is simply my loving protection, safely shielding you from a heavy responsibility you are not yet ready to carry, and meticulously preparing the exact earthly circumstances required for your breakthrough to be permanent and completely secure. You are profoundly valued, my beloved child. You are so deeply, incredibly cherished that I am fully willing to sit closely with you through the intense discomfort of this stretching season, just to ensure that your bright future is built perfectly on solid rock. As the divine potter, I hold you incredibly securely on the spinning wheel, my gentle hands constantly covered in the messy clay of your everyday life. I am pressing firmly here, pulling gently there, and carefully smoothing out the rough, sharp edges of bitterness, impatience, and fear that have painfully held you captive for so long. The intense pressure you currently feel is absolutely not the pressure of destruction. It is the deliberate, profoundly loving pressure of divine creation. As you finally learn to lean entirely into this necessary preparation, safely, allowing my perfect peace to completely saturate the deepest, most tired places of your soul, the agonizing, bitter frustration of the long wait begins to slowly wash away. You are no longer just barely surviving the delay. You are beautifully, vibrantly blooming directly inside of it. You are rapidly becoming a spiritually resilient, unshakable vessel of genuine, purified faith. The heavy, exhausting weight of impatience is finally lifting completely from your tired shoulders, beautifully replaced by a quiet, joyful realization that you are held safely in the very center of my perfect will. And as you fully embrace the profound, hidden beauty of this waiting season, your spiritual senses will begin to sharpen perfectly, positioning you to finally hear the subtle, shifting atmosphere that always precedes a monumental breakthrough, teaching you exactly how to recognize the gentle, quiet signs that your life is about to change forever. I want you to pay close attention to the spiritual atmosphere directly surrounding you right now, my child. When a massive, life-altering breakthrough is approaching, it never arrives unannounced. There is always a subtle, profound shift in the air, just before the heavy rain begins to fall upon the dry, cracked earth. You might not see the dark clouds forming yet with your physical eyes, but if your weary spirit is quietly resting in me, you can feel the cool, refreshing wind beginning to stir. I am intentionally escalating the spiritual intensity of this season, purposely cultivating a state of joyful, awakened expectation deep within your chest. You have spent so many agonizing months walking with your head down, bracing yourself against the harsh winds of financial hardship and overwhelming fear, trying to survive one exhausting day at a time. But the wind is actively changing direction. The suffocating heaviness that has stubbornly lingered over your home, making every breath feel like a desperate struggle, is starting to gradually lift. This is not a random coincidence or a temporary illusion created by your tired mind. It is the undeniable sacred whisper of approaching grace, gently signaling that your deliverance is truly imminent and that I am moving swiftly on your behalf. To fully step into this awakened expectation, I am guiding you to carefully recognize the small, seemingly insignificant moments of daily grace you have previously overlooked. A major wave of miraculous provision is always preceded by gentle ripples of kindness. I want you to intentionally notice the unexpected small check in the mail that covered exactly one pressing bill. The neighbor who suddenly offered a helping hand when you were too exhausted to ask, or the perfectly timed word of encouragement from a stranger that miraculously kept you from entirely giving up. These beautiful moments are not mere accidents. They are deeply intentional whispers of my presence, meticulously designed to keep your fragile hope alive, while the larger rescue travels toward you. When you dismiss these small mercies as coincidences, you inadvertently close your eyes to the constant work of my hands. I need you to understand that I am already sustaining you right here, in the deepest part of the valley, proving my absolute faithfulness in the microscopic details of your everyday routine. As you intentionally choose to celebrate these tiny ripples of grace, you are actively preparing your heart to joyfully receive the massive, overwhelming wave of abundance that is currently swelling just over the horizon, entirely ready to wash away your lack. This is precisely where the core promise of the unexpected benefactor comes sharply into focus. I want to vividly remind you of the wealthy person I am actively preparing to bless you with an incredible gift. You've been desperately trying to map out exactly how this financial rescue could possibly happen, relying on your own exhausted logic and your limited earthly connections. You assume that a miracle of this magnitude must arrive with a dramatic roar, accompanied by an earth-shattering display of divine power that immediately fixes everything. But that is rarely how I choose to operate, my child. I very often use the most ordinary, simple daily interactions to perfectly set up extraordinary miracles. The person carrying the exact financial breakthrough you have been desperately praying for is not going to fall mysteriously from the sky. They will walk straight into your everyday life, disguised in the mundane rhythm of a normal afternoon. I seamlessly weave my greatest blessings directly into the quiet fabric of your ordinary routines. I intimately hold the hearts of all people, and I am currently aligning this wealthy benefactor's path with yours, directing their abundant resources to flawlessly intersect with your immediate need, because this life-changing encounter will likely happen in the exact middle of an ordinary day. I am calling you to fully embrace the biblical theme of remaining watchful, sober, and spiritually alert. When you are entirely consumed by intense financial anxiety, your spiritual vision becomes dangerously narrowed, leaving you blind to the divine opportunities standing right in front of you. I am gently shaking your shoulder today, lovingly telling you to wake up. Do not sleep through the glorious season of your visitation. Being spiritually alert does not mean living in a state of frantic, nervous panic. It means living in a vibrant state of quiet, confident readiness. It means keeping your heart completely open and your spirit exquisitely sensitive to my gentle nudges. When I quietly prompt you to take a completely different route home from work, or to strike up a friendly conversation with someone standing quietly behind you in line, I deeply need you to obediently listen. The upcoming miracle is intimately tied to your willingness to remain beautifully awake and entirely responsive to my soft, guiding voice. I want you to begin looking at every single daily encounter with incredibly fresh, intensely hopeful eyes. You must strip away the heavy, cynical layers of past disappointment that have taught you to constantly expect the worst from people. When you step out of your front door tomorrow morning, I want your weary heart to beat with a profound excitement. You must deeply realize that the wealthy stranger carrying your life-altering blessing could cross your path at any given moment in the most unexpected and ordinary of places. It could happen in the quiet aisle of a local grocery store, in a crowded waiting room, or during a seemingly random phone call you almost decided not to answer. When you truly believe that I am constantly orchestrating your every step, every human interaction suddenly holds the breathtaking potential for a divine miracle. This joyous expectation radically changes the way you treat people. You stop seeing others as mere obstacles in your busy day, and you begin to authentically see them as potential instruments of my grace. By purposefully keeping your heart soft, generous, and vibrantly open, you are flawlessly setting the exact stage required for the unexpected benefactor to recognize the beautiful light of my peace shining brightly from your life. As this beautiful newly awakened expectation continues to grow deep within your soul, you will deeply feel the emotional suspense of this waiting season begin to rapidly build. But you must recognize that this is no longer the terrifying suspense of wondering if you are going to survive the violent storm. It is the breathtaking, joyful suspense of a deeply beloved child, standing securely on their tiptoes eagerly waiting for a magnificent surprise to finally be revealed. Your long, painful deliverance is truly imminent. The heavy, dark clouds of financial ruin are finally beginning to break apart, and the warm, healing sunlight of my provision is actively piercing through the darkest shadows. I have not forgotten a single desperate word of your faithful prayers, and I have not overlooked a single tear you have shed in the quiet isolation of your bedroom. The incredible promised gift is closer to you right now than it has ever been before. You are no longer hopelessly wandering in a barren desert. You are standing firmly on the very edge of the promised land, breathing in the sweet air of the abundant harvest waiting just across the river. Throughout this entire beautiful process of fully awakening your spiritual readiness, I have been intentionally focusing your attention directly on the gentle, quiet whispers of my comforting presence. By patiently teaching you to recognize my loving hand in the small, seemingly insignificant everyday details, I have been permanently solidifying your deep inner calm. This profound, unshakable calm is the absolute ultimate proof of the vital foundational truth I have established from the very beginning of this journey. My peace comes before my miracle. You are finally experiencing true, lasting, resilient joy without needing to see the physical money in your hands first. You have miraculously learned to rest so securely in my eternal promises that the exact earthly arrival time of the financial blessing no longer dictates the delicate condition of your weary soul. The frantic, exhausting desperation has been entirely washed away, beautifully replaced by a quiet, unwavering confidence in my absolute goodness. You are completely ready now, my beloved child. The deep spiritual foundation has been meticulously laid. The defensive walls of cynicism have been torn down, and your open, tired hands are joyfully waiting to finally receive. As you stand here in this beautiful, expectant peace, entirely alert, and watching the horizon with profound hope, I want to gently pull back the veil and reveal the precise anatomy of how this extraordinary, unexpected blessing will perfectly unfold in your life. To truly understand how this magnificent blessing will unfold, my child, you must first completely let go of the rigid mathematical equations you have been desperately using to solve your problems. I see you sitting alone at your kitchen table in the quiet hours of the night, intensely staring at your complex spreadsheets, meticulously trying to calculate exactly how a rescue could possibly happen. You are constantly limiting your expectations to the earthly avenues you can physically see: a second job, an extra overtime shift, a small bank loan, or a slight painful reduction in your daily expenses. You are frantically moving the exact same meager numbers around on the paper, deeply hoping they will somehow magically multiply, only to feel that familiar suffocating wave of defeat when the math simply refuses to work. But my divine economy completely defies your limited logical calculations. When I prepare to deliver a massive blessing into the life of one of my children, I rarely use the predictable, exhausting paths you have carefully mapped out in your tired mind. I want to entirely expand your faith far beyond the restrictive limits of your calculator. You deeply believe that your provision must directly equal the amount of agonizing physical effort you exert constantly, measuring your inherent worth by your sheer exhaustion. But my grace absolutely does not operate on a harsh worldly wage system. It operates entirely on my limitless, unfailing love for you. Let us look intently at the wealthy person I have been quietly promising to send your way. When you hear that an individual with abundant resources is coming, it is incredibly easy for your human mind to accidentally elevate them, to mistakenly view them as your ultimate earthly savior, or to instantly assume that their massive bank account makes them the true source of your rescue. But I deeply need you to understand the beautiful divine reality of how I work. This specific person is merely a willing, chosen conduit for my overflowing generosity. Their wealth is absolutely not their own. It is a temporary earthly resource that I have graciously and strategically entrusted to their temporary care for this exact divine purpose. They are an instrument in my sovereign hand, carefully selected to deliver a profound, life-altering message of love directly to your doorstep. I am actively working in the deepest parts of their heart right now, gently planting a deep, undeniable desire to give generously. They are feeling a quiet, persistent prompting in their spirit, a wholly undeniable nudge, urging them to intentionally release a significant portion of their abundance. They are actively looking for the absolute perfect place to plant their heavy seed of grace, and they do not even fully realize yet that this beautiful prompting is specifically and intricately tied to your desperate, tearful midnight prayers. I am deliberately designing this incoming miracle to completely and permanently dismantle your heavy, exhausting reliance on your own desperate hustle. You have spent entirely too many years violently grinding against the harsh gears of this fallen world, sincerely believing that if you simply worked a little harder, slept a little less, and pushed yourself to the absolute breaking point, you could finally secure your own financial safety. You have been desperately striving to build an impenetrable fortress of worldly security, using only your own severely depleted human strength. But if you were to somehow creatively engineer this massive breakthrough all by yourself, through sheer willpower and endless exhaustion, you would naturally claim the victory as your own. You would remain entirely trapped in the cruel, endless cycle of self-reliance, constantly terrified that if you ever stopped working, the walls would instantly collapse around you. I am delivering this incredible gift through a completely unexpected human instrument, specifically to prove once and for all that I am the ultimate solitary source of your provision. I want you to look closely at the sheer magnitude of this blessing and instantly realize that your tired hands could never have built it. When the massive provision finally arrives through an avenue you could not possibly have engineered, your exhausting, panicked striving finally comes to a beautiful, permanent end. I want you to vividly visualize the breathtaking, flawless intersection of grace that I am currently choreographing directly behind the scenes of your life. On one side of the city, there is you, sitting quietly in the heavy shadows of your living room, deeply burdened by a desperate, agonizing need to receive. On the exact opposite side, entirely unaware of your daily existence, is this wealthy stranger, carrying a heavy, overflowing surplus, and feeling a sudden divine desire to generously give. With perfect, infinite, and flawless precision, I am steadily bringing these two completely separate worlds together. I am meticulously aligning your specific, urgent financial deficit with their specific, readily available surplus. It is a beautiful, intricate dance of divine timing that no human mind could ever possibly arrange. The exact moment your financial pressure reaches its absolute terrifying peak will perfectly collide with the exact moment their heart is most fully open to radical, unexplainable generosity. This is absolutely not a random collision of lucky coincidence. It is the masterful, deeply intentional design of your Heavenly Father. I am setting the massive stage in such a profound way that neither the wealthy giver nor the desperate receiver can possibly take the glory for the miracle, ensuring that my name is the absolute only one praised when the transaction is finally complete. This is the profound, beautiful biblical principle of grace and unexpected kindness, displayed in its absolute purest form. True life-altering blessings very often arrive through highly unusual avenues that completely shatter your preconceived earthly expectations. You have spent agonizing months staring intensely at the front door, desperately waiting for a familiar opportunity to arrive. But I am entirely capable of bringing your magnificent rescue directly through the window. You have been quietly expecting a familiar face to offer a small, temporary sliver of help, but I am sending a total stranger to enthusiastically deliver an overwhelming, permanent abundance. I deliberately use these entirely unexpected avenues because I deeply want you to recognize my specific loving signature firmly attached to the gift. When this wealthy benefactor finally steps into your life, warmly extending a level of kindness that completely defies human logic, worldly self-interest, or basic financial sense, you will instantly know that this is not just a standard financial transaction. It is a massive, undeniable, supernatural intervention. It is the highly visible, incredibly tangible manifestation of my invisible eternal love for you, perfectly wrapped in the wonderfully ordinary clothing of an unexpected daily encounter. You have tried to place my boundless generosity into a tiny, predictable box, assuming that I am restricted by the very same social norms and banking limitations that currently hold you captive. But my grace is a wild, untamed river that effortlessly carves its own brilliant path through the hardest stone. By utilizing a completely unfamiliar face to deliver this overwhelming bounty, I am actively expanding your understanding of how vast and incredibly creative my love for you truly is. Because this incredible blessing is rapidly approaching from a source you absolutely did not earn, could never have predicted, and could never have carefully orchestrated on your own, it requires a very specific, humble posture of heart to receive it properly. I am currently preparing your soul to accept this coming gift with absolute beautiful, tearful humility. When the divine moment of connection finally happens, and the wealthy stranger extends their generous hand to warmly offer you this incredible financial relief, you must immediately suppress any lingering, stubborn human pride that desperately tries to politely refuse it. You must absolutely not feel deep shame in your desperate need, and you must certainly not feel inadequate or small in their wealthy presence. You must simply open your tired hands, gently bow your head, and clearly recognize that they are merely the willing physical delivery system for a divine, deeply personal kiss upon your forehead. This miracle is a direct, undeniable extension of my profound, unwavering love for you, specifically designed to permanently remind you that you are deeply cherished, entirely seen, and fiercely protected. And as you fully embrace this magnificent truth, entirely releasing your exhausting need to control the specific method of your rescue, you will suddenly find yourself standing directly on the very edge of the breakthrough, fully prepared to face the heaviest, darkest part of the night that always immediately precedes the glorious breaking dawn. This is the darkest, heaviest hour of your long midnight, the exact moment where the shadows stretch the longest across the room and the quiet weight of the world feels utterly crushing to your spirit. I know you are sitting there right now in the dim light, listening to the slow, rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall, feeling as though every single passing second is a relentless, uncaring countdown toward an inevitable collapse. The air in your home feels dense, thick with the lingering echo of all those sleepless nights you have quietly survived, and your mind is desperately fighting the instinctive urge to slip back into the familiar, exhausting rhythm of panic. You are standing on the very precipice of your life-changing moment, positioned directly at the jagged edge of a massive canyon of uncertainty right before the invisible veil is finally lifted from your eyes. It is in this precise space, where the human eye can see absolutely no physical signs of light on the horizon, that the enemy whispers his most malicious, convincing lies, trying to persuade you that the dawn has permanently forgotten its way to your specific home. But I am asking you to hold your ground in this deep stillness. Do not look back at the winding, painful path that brought you here, and do not let your eyes wander to the steep, terrifying drop beneath your feet. Look only into the quiet void of the immediate future, knowing that my unseen hand is already holding back the darkness, perfectly preparing the exact geometric alignment of the brilliant light that is about to beautifully pierce through your deepest shadows. Let us honestly and openly address the sheer overwhelming intensity of the financial pressure pressing against your chest at this very instant, my child. I see the final urgent notices stacked precisely on your kitchen counter, their bold red letters glaring at you like hostile, unyielding judges demanding a mathematical answer you simply do not possess in your hands. I know the exact deficit remaining in your bank account down to the single agonizing penny, and I see how your chest instinctively tightens every single time your phone rings or an unfamiliar email notification pops up on your screen. The financial strain has reached its absolute peak, mounting to a towering zenith, where your human logic insists that a total, irreversible catastrophe is only a matter of hours away. It feels to you as though you are completely running out of road, with the clock running down to its final, breathless minutes of survival. I want you to understand with absolute clarity that this extreme moment of maximum tension is not a sign that I have abandoned you to the wolves of lack, nor is it a punishment for some imagined spiritual failure on your part. This is the final ultimate test of your reliance on me. It is the sacred threshold boundary, where your human strength completely and utterly ends, so that my supernatural provision can gloriously and unforgettably begin. The world has meticulously trained you to believe that safety means always having a visible, predictable fallback plan, a security net of earthly assurances to catch you if your trust falls short. But I have purposely removed every single artificial prop, every false security, and every human crutch from your life, so that your faith could be anchored exclusively in my unshakable eternal character. This peak of pressure is simply the tight compression of the spring, right before the joyful, magnificent release. It is the absolute maxing out of the human dilemma, so that the divine rescue leaves absolutely no room for human pride or doubt. Because the circumstances around your life are currently roaring with such a deafening, terrifying intensity, you must fiercely and single-mindedly guard the core, non-negotiable rule we have established throughout this entire journey. My peace must come before my miracle. The storm outside your door is screaming that you have every logical right to completely break down, to pace the cold floor in frantic circles, and to drown your mind in a deep sea of catastrophic predictions. The world around you insists that peace is a fragile luxury reserved only for those whose bank accounts are entirely full and whose earthly problems are completely solved. But the peace I have planted deep within your spirit is a supernatural force that does not ask permission from your bill collectors, your employment status, or your immediate circumstances. It is an immovable, sovereign tranquility that looks directly into the furious mouth of the roaring lion and calmly chooses to rest. I am instructing you to stand firmly right now, rooted like an ancient mountain, completely unaffected by the chaotic, swirling winds of this passing crisis. Do not let your emotional stability fluctuate with the changing reports of the world or the cold balance of a screen. Your peace is your greatest power in this midnight hour. It is the spiritual currency that purchases your clarity when everything else is spinning out of control. When you choose to remain entirely still and perfectly calm while the storm is at its absolute worst, you are boldly announcing to the principalities of darkness that you know exactly who holds your tomorrow. You are proving to the universe that you are no longer a fragile slave to the outer conditions of your life, but a mature, deeply grounded child of the King who trusts the Father's quiet whisper far more than the world's loud, terrifying roar. Remember the timeless, sacred rhythm of my word that has echoed beautifully through the generations of my people whenever they found themselves trapped against the impassable, churning waters of the Red Sea. The roaring chariots of the Egyptian army were thundering directly behind them, kicking up massive clouds of suffocating dust, while the deep, dark waves completely barred their escape in front. Every single human instinct they possessed screamed at them to panic, to scatter in frantic directions, or to instantly surrender to their old captors out of sheer desperation. Yet the divine command that broke through their intense terror was completely counterintuitive to human logic. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. I am issuing that exact same sacred, unyielding command to your weary heart at this very moment. My child, standing still does not mean a passive, helpless giving up, nor is it a sign of weakness. It is an active, fiercely courageous posture of total spiritual defiance against the spirit of fear. It means you completely and totally refuse to move a single inch toward despair. It means you look directly at the massive wall of financial impossibility blocking your path, and you deliberately fold your arms, choosing to wait with absolute, unshakable confidence for my hand to split the waters wide open. You do not need to fight this battle with your own exhausted, trembling hands. You do not need to construct a frantic, human-made bridge across this vast chasm. Your single sacred assignment right now is to simply hold your position in the quiet center of my perfect peace, keeping your eyes locked onto the horizon, where my salvation is already breaking through the morning mist, perfectly timed and utterly unstoppable. I want you to intentionally prepare your heart right now to receive the immense, life-altering weight of the blessing that is moving towards you. Take your hands out of those tight, defensive fists of self-protection and gently open your tired palms toward heaven, silencing the very last lingering doubts that whisper, it is too late. Take a slow, deep spiritual breath, letting this specific moment be the ultimate sacred pause before the entire landscape of your life permanently shifts. There is a magnificent silence that always hangs over the world, right before a monumental wonder is unveiled, a beautiful suspension of time where the universe holds its breath in anticipation of a divine decree. You are resting on the very edge of the precipice, fully stabilized by my unshakable peace, your mind, beautifully cleared of all frantic calculations and human anxiety. Do not look to the left or to the right. Simply stay perfectly present in this beautiful, still transition, allowing the deep calm of my spirit to completely prepare your mind for the sudden joyous shock of the massive blessing that is about to step out from behind the veil and change your world forever. And then, in the gentle, quiet rhythm of a completely ordinary day, it finally happens. There are no sudden claps of thunder, no dramatic lightning strikes dividing the sky, and no loud trumpets announcing that your long season of drought has come to a permanent end. The massive, life-altering breakthrough arrives wrapped softly in the beautifully mundane details of your everyday routine, arriving as a profound act of unexpected kindness. The wealthy stranger I have been carefully preparing steps directly into your path, crossing the invisible threshold of your heavy waiting just as easily as someone walking through an open door. They extend their hand, offering a simple conversation, a sudden proposal, or a staggering gift, proving that often a stranger offers kindness when you least anticipate it. In a matter of mere seconds, the heavy, suffocating trajectory of your entire life is completely and permanently changed. You stare at them, your physical ears, hearing the incredible words they are speaking, but your mind, struggling desperately to process the sheer magnitude of the grace being poured out before you. This is the exact, breathtaking moment where the heavy veil is finally lifted. The sudden striking contrast between your long, agonizing emotional struggle and this instant influx of unmerited kindness hits you with the beautiful force of a rushing river. Your initial reaction is a profound, paralyzing shock. The air catches sharply in your throat, and for a beautiful, suspended fraction of a second, your heart completely forgets to beat. Your hands tremble softly as you look down at the tangible physical proof of your rescue. You desperately try to apply your old, familiar mathematical calculations to this new reality, but the spreadsheets and the rigid logic you have clung to for so long instantly evaporate into dust. The blessing sitting directly in front of you completely defies human comprehension. It is entirely too large, incredibly too perfectly timed, and far too specific to be dismissed as a random stroke of earthly luck. You look up at this willing, generous instrument of my love, this person who owes you absolutely nothing, yet is freely offering you exactly what you need to survive, and a breathless awe begins to wash over your weary soul. The heavy, dark armor of cynicism and protective doubt that you have worn for months suddenly clatters uselessly to the floor. You are standing completely exposed in the warm, brilliant, blinding light of my grace, entirely undone by the sheer, overwhelming volume of a blessing that you did not earn, could not orchestrate, and could never possibly repay. This is the divine moment. Your intense fear is entirely swallowed by unshakable hope. In this sacred, stunning moment of absolute disbelief, I need you to recognize the ancient, unshakable name written fiercely across every single detail of this encounter, Jehovah Jireh. I am the Lord, your provider. For months you have tearfully questioned my timing, wondering in the deep, silent hours of the night if I had simply turned my face away from your suffering. But as you stand here holding the exact financial relief you have been desperately begging for, you can clearly see that I was meticulously measuring the sands of time all along. I did not just provide a vague, general blessing. I provided precisely, perfectly, and exactly what was needed down to the final penny, at the exact critical second it was required. Jehovah Jireh does not mean that I rush to prevent every moment of discomfort, but it means that when the true need reaches its absolute peak, my provision is already standing there fully prepared and waiting in the thicket. I perfectly synchronize the profound generosity of this wealthy stranger with the deepest, most urgent gasp of your despair. This flawless intersection of their abundance and your desperate lack is the ultimate undeniable proof that the Creator of the universe is actively, intimately managing the microscopic details of your daily existence, turning a profound failure into a magnificent victory. As the massive weight of this realization settles deeply into your chest, the hot, heavy tears you have bravely held back for so long finally begin to fall. These are no longer the bitter, exhausting tears of midnight panic, nor are they the quiet, silent weeping of a forgotten, lonely heart. These are the beautiful, overwhelming, cleansing tears of a beloved child who suddenly realizes they are profoundly, intimately known and seen by their Heavenly Father. Through your blurred vision, you look at the face of the wealthy stranger standing before you, but in their warm, generous smile, you vividly see the unmistakable reflection of my own eyes. You instantly realize that I was the one quietly standing behind this carefully orchestrated encounter all along. Every single time you cried out in the isolated sanctuary of your car, or sat entirely alone, staring at the unpaid bills, wondering how you would survive the week, I was right there beside you. Every terrified whisper you breathed into the dark, I heard them all. I collected them all, and I answered them all, right here in this singular, breathtaking moment of supernatural delivery. You are not a random face in a massive, uncaring crowd. You are the direct target of my fierce, unfailing affection, and this incredible gift is the physical manifestation of my protective arms, wrapping tightly around your exhausted shoulders. This staggering physical miracle is the ultimate joyous confirmation that your long season of severe financial hardship has finally been broken by my faithful, enduring presence. But I want you to clearly recognize the profound spiritual victory that happened right before the provision arrived. Because you bravely chose to stand entirely still in the darkest part of the night. Because you intentionally silenced the roaring panic of the enemy and fiercely anchored your mind in my promises. Your hands were completely open and fully ready to receive this blessing. Your hard-won inner peace beautifully paved the golden road for this exact moment. If you had remained tightly gripped by bitter skepticism and frantic self-reliance, you might have easily completely missed this quiet, unassuming stranger, or you might have proudly rejected their kindness out of stubborn human pride. But you did the incredibly difficult spiritual work. You trusted me while the cupboards were bare. You praised me while the bank account was empty. And you cultivated a deep, unshakable sanctuary of peace while the violent storm was still raging wildly outside your door. You actively proved the greatest, most powerful truth of this entire journey. My peace always, always comes before my miracle. Now I want you to simply stand here and fully, deeply absorb the magnificent reality of what has just occurred. Do not rush past the holy, breathtaking shock of this completely unexpected rescue. Let the warm, vibrant rush of immense gratitude completely saturate every single tired fiber of your being, washing away the lingering dusty residue of all those agonizing months of fear. The crushing, heavy yoke of financial anxiety has been violently broken off your neck, completely shattered by a single powerful stroke of my extravagant grace. The relentless, exhausting cycle of survival has instantly ended beautifully, replaced by a wide, expansive new horizon of incredible debt-free abundance. This is not merely a temporary fix. It is a permanent, monumental shift in the entire spiritual and physical trajectory of your life on this earth. You have officially crossed over from the dry, barren wilderness of waiting into the lush, overflowing promised land of my absolute, perfect provision. Breathe in the sweet, clean air of your newfound freedom, my child, and let your weary heart absolutely overflow with the joyous, tearful wonder of a beautiful eternal promise that has finally, gloriously, and undeniably been kept. You have completely learned what it means to trust me in the silent darkness. And now, you will finally experience the magnificent reward of walking with me in the radiant light of the breaking dawn. As you step forward into this radiant light, I want you to take a long, deep breath and truly feel the physical weight leaving your tired shoulders. Your breathing, which has been incredibly shallow and anxiously guarded for so many long months, finally deepens into a steady, restful rhythm. You are looking at the tangible resolution to your longest, most agonizing struggle, and the initial breathless shock is beautifully giving way to a profound, humbling gratitude. I see you holding the physical evidence of this miracle in your trembling hands, staring in absolute wonder at the numbers that finally, miraculously work. The crushing debt that kept you awake at night is completely dismantled. The urgent bills that haunted your mailbox are entirely satisfied, and the terrified calculations that consumed your mind have been permanently erased. It is incredibly important that you pause right here and let the beautiful reality of this earthly deliverance fully wash over you. I completely understand the immense relief you are feeling because I created your humanity, and I know intimately how deeply financial terror can suffocate the human spirit. But as the tears of joy continue to trace warm paths down your cheeks, I want to gently take your face in my hands and lift your eyes just a little bit higher. I want to guide your weary heart to look far past the physical and financial nature of this incredible gift, so you can fully understand its much deeper, eternal spiritual significance. The financial rescue you have just received from this unexpected benefactor is entirely real, and it completely solves your immediate earthly problem. But you must understand that the money itself is simply a temporary tool. The currency, the cleared accounts, and the sudden breathtaking surplus are ultimately just physical, earthly manifestations of my unfailing eternal love for you. Think of it like a beautifully wrapped package resting quietly in your hands. The wrapping paper is the financial relief, bright, attractive, and exactly what your earthly circumstances desperately required. But the true lasting treasure is what rests securely inside the box. I am calling you to look past the beautiful wrapping today. I want you to metaphorically unbox this miracle and discover the profound biblical themes of mercy, unmerited favor, and divine provision that form its very foundation. When a child receives a gift from a loving parent, the true, lasting joy does not come merely from the physical object itself. The deepest joy comes from the overwhelming realization that the parent was intentionally thinking of them, that they were carefully considered, and that they were deeply loved enough to be chosen. The financial blessing you hold is simply the loud, undeniable physical proof that I have been intimately thinking of you every single second of your difficult journey. I did not just send you funds. I sent you a deeply personal, customized love letter, written in the exact language your weary heart desperately needed to read. As you continue carefully unwrapping the true meaning of this blessing, the first beautiful layer you will find inside is my boundless mercy. You spent so many exhausted months wondering if you had somehow disqualified yourself from my help because of past mistakes, subtle doubts, or moments of intense, paralyzing fear. You thought your divine provision would be strictly measured by your perfect spiritual performance, but this unexpected kindness violently shatters that cruel, legalistic illusion. This gift arrived when you were completely out of strength, proving that my grace is never a wage you must frantically earn. It is a free, beautiful gift you simply receive. The second profound layer you uncover is the breathtaking reality of true divine provision. You have beautifully learned that I do not just provide bare, scraping survival. I provide overflowing, generous abundance that completely defies human logic. The wealthy stranger who served as my willing instrument did not just give you enough to barely make it through the coming week. They enthusiastically delivered a surplus that permanently changes your entire trajectory. This is exactly how I always operate. My child, I am a father of overflowing cups of baskets filled with leftover bread after the thousands have eaten, and of heavy nets breaking under the weight of a miraculous catch. I want you to possess a crystal clear spiritual vision that recognizes every single detail of this blessing as a deliberate, loving reflection of my flawless character. But we must unbox this gift even further, reaching down into the very center of its profound meaning. This stunning, life-altering financial rescue is actually a beautiful earthly echo of the ultimate incomparable gift of Christ's sacrifice on the cross. Just as you were entirely trapped under a massive mountain of physical debt you could absolutely never repay on your own. You once carried a heavy spiritual debt that required a rescue far beyond your human capacity. Just as this wealthy stranger freely chose to step into your life and completely pay a price they did not owe simply out of grace and unexpected kindness. My son stepped directly into the darkness of this world to completely pay a debt. He did not owe simply out of an unfathomable love for your soul. The overwhelming emotional relief you feel right now, the joyous, breathless realization that the heavy burden has been entirely lifted and your record has been wiped completely clean, is the exact same spiritual relief I desire for you to live in every single day of your life on this earth. This physical miracle is merely a brilliant, highly polished mirror, perfectly reflecting the eternal reality of your salvation. It is a highly tangible everyday reminder that you are completely covered, thoroughly forgiven, and lavishly provided for by a Savior who held absolutely nothing back to secure your absolute freedom. This profound realization completely and permanently solidifies a massive, beautiful transformation within your mind. You are crossing a sacred threshold today, leaving the exhausting mindset of scarcity behind forever, and boldly stepping into true spiritual abundance. For years, you have viewed your entire life through a terribly narrow lens of lack, constantly bracing yourself for the next inevitable disaster, terrified that there would never be enough time, enough energy, or enough resources to simply survive your week. You had quietly, painfully accepted the tragic lie that you were destined to always be a forgotten beggar, desperately scraping for the leftover crumbs of this world. But as you stand here holding this undeniable proof of my favor, the heavy, suffocating chains of that scarcity mindset are falling permanently to the ground. You are finally recognizing that your greatest wealth is not the sudden financial relief sitting brightly in your bank account. Worldly wealth can be stolen, lost, or eroded by the constantly shifting tides of the economy. But the profound spiritual abundance you now possess is entirely untouchable. Your greatest, truest wealth is the undeniable, tangible proof that you are deeply, fiercely, and eternally cherished by your Creator. You are the beloved child of the King of Kings, holding complete, unrestricted access to the boundless resources of heaven. This beautiful, unshakable truth fundamentally and forever changes your intimate relationship with me. The lingering, painful distance you used to feel when you prayed alone in the dark has completely vanished, beautifully replaced by a warm, continuous, and deeply personal fellowship. You will never again approach my throne with trembling, fearful hesitation, wondering if I will unjustly turn you away, or if I have completely forgotten your specific name in the vastness of the universe. You have beautifully moved from a tired servant, desperately asking for a daily wage, to a deeply beloved heir, confidently receiving their rightful inheritance. When future storms inevitably rise on the horizon, as they always do in this broken world, your heart will not instantly collapse into a frantic, breathless panic. Instead, you will look back at this exact monumental moment of miraculous rescue, and you will instantly remember that the God who perfectly orchestrated the unexpected arrival of the wealthy benefactor is the exact same God walking safely beside you in the new storm. Your faith has been permanently forged in the hottest fire, and your complete trust in my perfect timing has been beautifully solidified by the undeniable reality of my grace. You have successfully unwrapped the true meaning of the blessing, and you have gloriously discovered that the absolute greatest gift I could ever possibly give you is simply the quiet, unshakable assurance of my constant loving presence. Stand in this beautiful aftermath with me, my child. The heavy, suffocating burdens that once bowed your tired shoulders completely to the floor have been permanently lifted, swept away by the overwhelming flood of my grace. Look closely around you at the walls of your home. The air in these rooms no longer feels thick and heavy with suffocating anxiety. It is vibrant light, and infused with the sweet, undeniable fragrance of absolute victory. You are completely and forever transformed. The exhausted, fearful survivalist who used to frantically pace these very floors in the agonizing hours of the midnight has been entirely replaced by a radiant, deeply anchored, and spiritually resilient child of the King. I want you to completely surrender to this pure, unfiltered joy right now. Let the joyous musical laughter bubble up from the deepest, most hidden parts of your soul, entirely unhindered by any lingering shadow of doubt or self-protection. You absolutely do not have to nervously wait for the other shoe to drop. You do not have to cautiously guard your weary heart against a sudden, cruel reversal of fortune. This monumental breakthrough is completely secure. It is permanent, and it is beautifully yours to keep. The brutal, exhausting war you've been fiercely fighting in your own mind is officially over, and the profound, complete peace we have built together piece by piece now stands as an impenetrable, towering fortress around your mind. As you fully absorb the staggering, life-altering magnitude of what has just taken place, I watch with immense delight as your heart naturally overflows into the most beautiful, tearful worship I have ever witnessed. You are no longer desperately asking me for a rescue. You're simply pouring out your profound, unfiltered gratitude. I see you dropping gently to your knees, right there in your living room, completely unashamed, your hands lifted high in absolute joyful surrender. To my goodness, this is the greatest, most profound emotional release of your entire journey. The tears streaming heavily down your face right now are completely different from the bitter tears you wept in the lowest valley. Those were heavy tears of desperate, breathless exhaustion and intense fear. These are the warm, radiant, cleansing tears of a soul that has been entirely and completely set free. Every single broken, joyful word of thanksgiving that leaves your trembling lips is like a fragrant, beautiful offering rising directly to my heavenly throne. You are worshiping me not merely for the physical provision now resting safely in your bank account, but for the profound, overwhelming realization that I never, ever left your side. Your praise is entirely pure, because it was born in the fierce, roaring fire of adversity and has been perfectly refined by the undeniable physical arrival of my unmerited grace. From this highly elevated, triumphant vantage point, you now possess an unshakable confidence in my perfect divine timing. You can finally look back over your shoulder at the long, winding road of your painful waiting season, and for the very first time, you can clearly see the masterful, intricate design of my loving hand in every single agonizing delay. You realize now with crystal clarity that if I had brought this incredible, massive gift even one day sooner, your character would not have been spiritually prepared to handle its immense, life-altering weight. Your heart now completely understands that my mysterious delays are absolutely never rejections, but rather the careful, loving preparation of a heavenly Father who absolutely refuses to give a premature blessing that might accidentally crush his beloved child. Because you have personally witnessed me effortlessly part your impossible Red Sea, your entire perspective on tomorrow has fundamentally and permanently shifted. You now hold a joyful, entirely fearless expectation for the future. When you look toward the distant horizon today, you no longer see impending financial storms, looming catastrophes, or inevitable failure. You see a wide, expansive landscape of endless divine possibilities. The crippling fear of what might go wrong has been violently conquered by the absolute, unshakable certainty of exactly who is walking intimately beside you. But as you step vibrantly and boldly into this brilliant new season of overflowing abundance, I am extending a vital, incredibly powerful invitation to your heart. You must intentionally choose to continue walking closely and intimately with me. It is incredibly easy for human beings to passionately seek my face when their hands are desperately empty and they have nowhere else to turn. But true, enduring spiritual maturity is clinging to me just as fiercely when your hands are overflowing with plenty. I deeply desire for your unshakable faith to depend entirely on the blesser rather than simply depending on the blessing itself. The incredible financial wealth you have just received is a beautiful, necessary, and temporary earthly tool. But I am your eternal, unchanging, and absolute greatest reward. Do not ever let the vibrant joy and the exciting new opportunities of this abundant season distract you from the quiet, sacred moments we share in the stillness. I want you to keep the daily cadence of our conversations just as urgent, just as honest, and just as deeply personal as they were in your absolute darkest hour. I want to continue being the very first person you excitedly speak to in the early morning light, and the absolute last comforting voice you hear as you drift into a peaceful, deeply restorative sleep. Let this massive, unexpected miracle be the brilliant doorway that leads you directly into a much deeper, entirely unbreakable relationship with me, ensuring that your heart remains eternally anchored in my loving presence. Because you have bravely endured this intense refining fire and successfully emerged on the other side completely intact and beautifully strengthened, you are now fully equipped to be a powerful living testimony of my profound goodness to others. The intense, suffocating pain you miraculously survived was never just meant for your own personal spiritual growth. It was meticulously designed to eventually become the exact life-saving medicine that someone else desperately needs. There are people walking all around you who are currently trapped in the exact same terrifying financial midnight you just joyfully escaped. They are sitting entirely alone in their cars, staring blankly at unpaid bills, quietly wondering if I have completely forgotten them, and if their lives still hold any value. I am going to gently and purposefully lead those hurting, exhausted souls directly into your new path. When they look closely at your life, they will not just see a shallow story of sudden financial success. They will see the undeniable radiant light of a God who aggressively and lovingly rescues his children. You will look them directly in the eyes, carrying the profound, empathetic authority of someone who has actually survived the violent storm, and you will firmly tell them to hold on. You will wrap your arms around their trembling shoulders and joyfully pour out the massive overflow of your grateful heart, entirely embracing your new spiritual wealth by freely sharing the exact same profound comfort, hope, and generosity that you yourself just miraculously received. You have beautifully reached the ultimate triumphant conclusion of this long, difficult, and profoundly transformative chapter. My beloved child, the tear-stained pages of your agonizing struggle have been permanently turned, and a breathtaking, unblemished, entirely new chapter of joy is eagerly waiting to be written. You are stepping confidently forward, enveloped in a magnificent, overwhelming sense of unshakable hope, entirely confident that the exact same God who faithfully and perfectly delivered you from the terrifying grip of lack will absolutely never abandon you in the glorious days of your newly found abundance. Stand incredibly tall in the beautiful, peaceful aftermath of your miracle. Breathe deeply of the pristine, clean air of your complete and total financial and spiritual freedom. Let your heart permanently anchor itself in the joyous reality that you are fiercely protected, deeply cherished, and flawlessly provided for by your Heavenly Father. Because your heart is now overflowing with such profound gratitude, I want you to gently close your eyes, open your hands one final time, and let these simple words of prayer wash completely over your spirit. Pray with me now. Heavenly Father, I come before you today with a heart completely overwhelmed by your boundless grace. Thank you for never leaving my side during the darkest, most terrifying nights of my long struggle, and for holding me together when I felt like I was completely falling apart. Thank you for perfectly stepping in and entirely removing the heavy burdens I could no longer carry, and for miraculously providing a rescue that entirely defied my limited human logic. Please give me the continued daily wisdom to always keep my eyes fixed entirely on you, the true and eternal source of my joy, rather than just the temporary blessings resting in my hands. Use my story, Lord, to bring powerful, undeniable hope and deep comfort to those who are still desperately waiting for their dawn to break. I trust you completely with my entire future, knowing with absolute certainty that my life is held perfectly and securely in your loving, unfailing hands. In Jesus' name, amen.